Welcome to iTunes U at RVC. My name is Professor Chuck Conkle. I am with the CIS Division. Been using iTunes U for 8 years. The courses I teach is mobile app development, network security, web design, teaching PHP and web design, and also digital photography. And this session is just going to basically go over an iTunes U overview, and let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to look at what is iTunes U, history and usage of iTunes U here at RVC, a demo. We'll talk about public and private iTunes U and how to request an iTunes U. There'll also be some links throughout the presentation. So let's find out first, what is iTunes U? This is a screenshot of our iTunes U presence. You'll notice the courses each have icons. They have the name of the course, and on the right side is the categories. iTunes U is dedicated to section of Apple's iTunes Music Store. It features audio and video files from universities, museums, and public media organizations for free download to PC and mobile devices. iTunes U allows a visitor to search, download, and play educational content in the same way they can manipulate songs, podcasts, television shows, and movies. Participating institutions besides our own: Stanford, UC Berkeley, University of Melbourne, Texas A&M, MIT, Yale, Trinity College, Dublin, and many more. Beyond the campus section of iTunes U, it also delivers programming from American Public Media, PBS, Museum of Modern Art, and Smithsonian. From February 2014 to February 2015, we see here the downloads from our presence on iTunes U. Notice all the countries represented here on the right, US being the top hitter, which makes sense, of folks visiting iTunes U. China, UK, Russia, Canada, Australia, India, Kuwait, Germany, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Brazil, France, and other. Some of the top courses: over 11,000, close to 12,000 downloads for PHP is a course I teach on mobile web development and app development using PHP. Then you have biology, adult health 3, and then these are some other top collections over the last year that have been downloaded from our iTunes U sections. Introduction to Visual Basic, Human Biology, Digital Photography, Excel 2007, PHP, Advanced Programming, iOS Development Course, Word 2007, Adult Health 3, and Introduction to Network Security Fundamentals. Rock Valley College has been a part of iTunes U since 2006. There's 45 courses and divisions a part of iTunes U. The average visitors count is 10,500 per month. And because it's a public accessible iTunes presence, anyone in the world can visit our site on iTunes U. So how do you teach with podcast? Well, a podcast, basically, before we get into the list here, can either be an audio or video podcast. An audio would just be your voice. A video would be like the one you're watching right now, of a screen and a voice. It could also be a screen with your face and a voice, your voice. But it's not limited to just recording lectures, like most people think. You can record dialogues, create vocabulary lists, flashcards for tests coming up, create problem set demonstrations and lab experiments, give audio feedback to student homework, do a common question review at the end of the week. And students themselves can create video, audio podcasts, and critique each other, which I've done in the past. Also, a supplemental course material that you don't have time to cover within your course, podcast is great for that as well. So the first thing you want to do before you begin recording podcasts is figure out what type of podcast you want to create. I suggest just starting out, create a podcast in an area that students or other faculty or folks that you help on a daily basis ask you questions of a lot, or you have questions of a certain topic a lot, because that's going to be a topic of choice that you're familiar with. You've helped a student in this type of lab, or you've helped a student in this type of subject you're teaching over and over and over again. You can start out small by creating 5 to 8 minute podcasts of little bits of information about your course, and then work your way up maybe into recording your whole sessions like I do on a weekly basis. Number 2, create a script. You might not use a script as you continue to podcast as the years goes on. When you first start, I used a script for about the first year, and it helped me figure out what I was going to do, what I was going to say. And I do recommend it. Now, a rough draft of a script would be a general introduction, what you're going to be covering, topics you're going to be hitting, welcoming the users, covering that material, doing a recap, and then final points that you want to make before you end, to kind of leave your listeners with something to ponder and to something to think about. So 1, decide what podcast. 2, create a script. 3, use what's out there that's free. There is paid podcast creation tools that are really great, but they cost money. So one of the tools I've used over the number of years is screencast-o-matic.com. It does give a free account for 15 minutes, and you can create a screencast like you're looking at right now of your PC or Mac monitor along with the voice, your voice over that. You also see the mouse movement or anything else you might do. And then fourthly, practice, practice, practice. And I'll be creating further podcasts on Screencast-O-Matic, but you can go ahead and sign up for that free tool. And again, it's browser-based, can be accessed from any computer that has a web browser, and it does have free 15 minutes available for anyone to use. So let's talk about iTunes use on public and private, what the difference is. Right now, when you go to iTunes U, which we'll go to in a second on Rock Valley College's website, it shows us the public face of iTunes U. That's where all the 10,500 worldwide users hit a month of our podcasts that are out there. And the public interface is for faculty to upload their course content, PDFs, audios, but you might not want to do that. You might want to choose to just have your course in a private area. When we first started in 2006 with iTunes U, we only had a private and a entity of iTunes U, and then over the years morphed into public. But as you sign up, hopefully for iTunes U, everyone gets a private account of iTunes U, and all that means is you would have to directly link your course in iTunes U to RVC Eagle or in your literature that you give your student to the public. The steps basically and the difference between the public and private is all faculty administrators, when they're ready to upload a podcast, they're going to all upload to the private version of iTunes U. You will fill out a form online, which I'll show you in a second, to tell me you have uploaded to your private, and that you would like to have that pushed out to your public. If you don't want the public interface of that podcast, then you can keep it in the private area. So let's go ahead and do a demo. We're going to go to rockvalleycollege.edu. We'll click on the iTunes U icon. We'll navigate to iTunes U and subscribe. So rockvalleycollege.edu, I'm going to click on the iTunes U icon. What it's going to do is going to bring us to the landing page of iTunes U. I'm then going to click on Go to Rock Valley College on iTunes U now. It's going to prompt to launch iTunes U. I recommend using Firefox or Safari, either one, if you have a Mac, to load iTunes U. Chrome sometimes gives errors because it does not like JavaScript or Java applications, and that's what it's used to launch this. So depending on your internet speeds will depend upon how long it takes. Now, one of the things too is you need to have iTunes installed. If you don't have iTunes installed, that link that we just clicked on Rock Valley College's website will redirect you to download the free iTunes U software. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a course, show you how to register that course and subscribe. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Digital Photography Web 225. And then I'm going to click subscribe. Once I click subscribe, it'll prompt me if I want to subscribe to this course. I'm going to say yes, subscribe. Now I can go to My iTunes U on iTunes U, and I actually have the courses I've subscribed to. And what iTunes is going to do is going to download the latest and greatest. Like here's one from this semester, iOS Development Course, Introduction on 1/13/2015, 18 minutes and 3 seconds. And so once that's downloaded, that can be clicked on and the movie can be played for students to see. The course itself on iTunes U will have your name, the course description, and then the podcast that you have uploaded to your course. It'll also have at the bottom of the course what other listeners have subscribed to. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So I showed you iTunes U, how to subscribe, navigate around, and how to subscribe. The next thing I want to do is talk about requesting an iTunes U course. If you go to www.iteachtherefore.ipad.com, go to the iTunes U tab, and request an iTunes U course. That'll get you started. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll show you what that looks like. And this site was created to help faculty and administrators of Rock Valley College create and manage their iTunes U course. So from the site, you'll click on iTunes U. There will be a form that will load up here. And one of the things you'll need to fill out initially and each time you create a podcast and upload it is go to this form. So you put in your full name, your email, your course name on iTunes U. This is your first time. You'll put in what you'd like your course to be called. Make sure it matches with your course catalog. It also might be a supplementary podcast you could create as well that might not be a course name. That's fine as well. Or you might be a division on campus or administrative office on campus, and it's not going to be in the catalog maybe what podcast you're wanting to create. If it's for a certain project or whatever, you can name it that as well. So 3 choices once you've named the iTunes U course: uploading new podcast, deleting, or requesting. You'll be requesting the first time. You can leave the podcast title empty And here's an important one. Do you want your site to be public or private? Or do you want it to be, if you want it to be public, its default is yes. If you don't, you're going to just do no. If you want both, just make it yes. Because the private site is for everyone. Public site, I would like you to say yes, I'd like it to be public as well. Any questions or comments, and then you'll submit that form. What I will do is when I get that form, I'll respond back to you with the steps of getting started with podcasting, also the steps of uploading your first podcast. And so you'll have some documentation, some video podcasts to watch to get you started. So thank you for your time. The website I'd like to refer you to again is iteachtherefore.ipad.com. If you do have an iPad, there's tons of suggested apps on that website, lesson helps as well, and more. There's my email, c.conkle@rockvalleycollege.edu. Well, thank you for your time. Lastly, make sure and go to iteachtherefore.ipad.com for not only subscribing or requesting for an iTunes U course. Also, there's on that website tons of app suggestions if you have an iPad, lesson helps, and more. There's even a free course for faculty and administrators to take on how to use your iPad. You can email questions to c.conkle@rockvalleycollege.edu. And in the days to come, I will be creating podcasts on Screencast-O-Matic. Also be creating podcasts on how to create a script for your very first podcast. Again, thanks for your time and enjoy podcasting.